Ever notice how the things that feel amazing for about 5 seconds usually end up ruining your entire week? Think about it. The late night impulse buy, the mindless scrolling at 2 in the morning, or worse, stepping over the line in a relationship because it felt good in the moment. We live in a world that sells us instant gratification on a silver platter, promising that we can have whatever we want, whenever we want it, with absolutely zero consequences. But thousands of years ago, a king named Solomon wrote down a warning about this exact trap. He wrote a chapter called Proverbs 5, and honestly, it reads less like ancient poetry and more like a brutally honest, late-night text message from a close friend who is trying to save your life. By the end of this audio, you are going to understand the exact psychology of temptation that Solomon laid out. More importantly, you will get a practical 4-step framework to protect your relationships, your mental peace, and your future from self-destruction. Trust me, the ending of this ancient text reveals a hidden cost to slipping up that most people do not realize until it is way too late. Let's start with the first step, which is recognizing the illusion of the honey drop. In the opening verses of Proverbs 5, Solomon warns that the lips of temptation drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. Temptation never shows up looking ugly, toxic, or destructive. It always looks like a shortcut to happiness, a harmless escape, or a temporary thrill. But the text immediately drops a heavy truth bomb. It says that in the end, she is bitter as gall and sharp as a double-edged sword. This is what we can call the sugarcoat effect. The initial phase of making a bad decision always tastes sweet. But if you do not judge an action by how it starts, and instead look at where it lands, you will realize it leads straight to ruin, killing your peace of mind and creating absolute chaos. This brings us to the second step, which is taking the best detour. Solomon gives incredibly practical advice in verse 8. He says, "Keep to a path far from her, and do not go near the door of her house." Notice that he does not say to go to her house and try really hard to be strong. He says, do not even walk down her street. In modern life, this means setting digital and physical boundaries long before you are tested. If you know a certain app, a certain environment, or a certain person triggers poor choices, you do not test your willpower. You delete the app, you change the route, and you close the door. This is backed by ancient wisdom that tells us, when desire is fully activated, people do not want advice. They just want satisfaction. The easiest way to win a fight against temptation is to make the decision to walk away before the fight even begins. But let us pause for a second, because there is a fascinating, surprising detail hidden in the middle of this chapter that completely changes how we look at it. In verse 15, Solomon writes, "Drink water from your own cistern." Now to us, that might sound like a strange, random piece of advice, but in ancient, dry desert lands, water was the most precious resource a family had. In those days, stealing water from another person's well was considered a massive crime. It threatened the survival and security of an entire household. By using this water metaphor, Solomon was showing his readers that violating a marriage commitment is not just a personal slip-up. It is a high-stakes violation that threatens the entire foundation of your life and family security. And that leads directly to the third step, which is to drink from your own well. The grass is greener syndrome is one of the biggest lies we face. True fulfillment does not come from finding a new fountain every time you feel bored. It comes from investing in, watering, and tending to the relationship you have already chosen. Solomon encourages us to let our springs belong to us alone. and to rejoice in the companion of our youth. When we pour our emotional focus, energy, and romance back into our primary commitments, instead of letting our emotional energy spill out into public squares or onto strangers, we build something that actually lasts. The final step is understanding the compound interest of compromise. Solomon warns that if you ignore these boundaries, strangers will feast on your wealth, your hard work will enrich someone else, and you will spend the end of your life groaning in regret as your body and strength are spent. In the modern world, we see this constantly. Affairs, poor financial integrity, and lack of self-discipline destroy reputations, drain bank accounts, and fracture families. Verse 22 says that the evil deeds of a person will ensnare them, and the cords of their own sin will hold them fast. We think we can control our compromises, but eventually the compromise controls us. Solomon concludes with a sobering reality check. He says that a person's ways are in full view of the Lord, and that people die for a lack of discipline, led astray by their own great folly. True freedom is not about having zero rules. It is about having the self-discipline to protect what matters most. If this message gave you a perspective shift on how to protect your focus, your relationships, and your future, please hit that like button. Drop a comment below and let me know, what is one healthy boundary you need to set this week to keep yourself on the right path? Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next chapter.